Am I the a-hole for returning the money to my mother-in-law in front of everyone, embarrassing her? Me, 28 female, and my fiancé, 27 male, are getting married in March. I come from an upper-class family, and my fiancé is lower middle class. This is a delicate matter for his family. Despite me being able to pay all the costs of the wedding, my parents gave the equivalent of 70% of the value of the wedding as a gift, which would be around 30K, fictitious value. And fortunately, my parents did not use this gift as an excuse to control everything at a party. When my fiancé's parents learned that my parents had given this gift, my fiancé and I didn't mention it, but my sister-in-law snitched to them. They decided to give their gift as well, and gave 3K, an amount for which I was very grateful to have received, and I deeply regret doing this, especially for my mother-in-law. I don't plan on having a traditional wedding party. My dress won't be white, lilac. There will be no religious ceremony, and it will be a party for only 30 guests, and my fiancé agrees and supports this. This bothers my mother-in-law a lot, especially the dress not being white. Over time, she gave up on imposing the idea of a big party and not having a religious ceremony, but the dress is something she annoys me too much. And it continues even though I snapped at her, or my fiancé tells her to stop. Because of that, we are in low contact with her. Yesterday, it was my sister-in-law's birthday and I went with my husband. Obviously, my mother-in-law was there. Not even 5 minutes after I stepped into the party, she started again with the idea of me having to wear white because it's an important tradition. And it got to the point where she was talking to her sisters about how this new generation doesn't respect traditions and that she was sorry/afraid of these new parties. I had my limits when she spoke loud and clear that in her time the bride and groom respected their parents' opinions, even more so if they helped pay for the wedding. I got very angry and said, "Enough. I can't take it. It's not worth listening to other people's nonsense for this money." I had this money in my pocket and was going to deposit that same amount in the bank later, but I gave up and gave it to her in front of everyone. And I added that now she won't say anything because she's not helping. This generated a confusion of tremendous proportions. My fiancé's entire family fighting with me, saying that I humiliated her in front of everyone and demeaned the amount they gave. Well, I had to leave early so it won't get any worse. My fiancé understands why I did it, but said it wasn't my best moment and I could have done it in private and not in front of everyone. Am I the a-hole? Extra? Explaining some doubts in the comments. 1. It is not dollars and the values are fictitious. It was only given as a parameter of values only. 2. I didn't have exactly 3K in my purse. Translator was wrong here. It was close to 3.2K that I was going to deposit after the party. 3. I've lived with my husband for years. We've been married for years, and we're just getting it official, so I call him husband or fiancé, whatever. 4. My sister-in-law found out about this money because my husband, as they are very close, told her that he was happy that my parents covered more than half of the expenses, and this amount not spent on the wedding ourselves was saved to start IVF next year. Ha ha ha, not the a-hole. Sucks to suck mother-in-law. Act like an A in front of others. Be treated like an A in front of others. Right? It's OP's wedding, so she can wear what she wants. If she wants to wear a frickin' potato sack, she's entitled to wear a frickin' potato sack. Leave it alone, mother-in-law. Not the a-hole. House elf-themed wedding. They are wearing potato sacks and exchange socks to be free together. Not the a-hole. Never understand the argument that people who start crap in public should be given the consideration of dealing with them in private. Mother-in-law started it. You finished it. She'll think twice the next time. Exactly. Nip that thing in the bud now, and next time maybe she'll know to behave. She is not in charge. Not the a-hole. Had you done it privately, mother-in-law still could have continued, since no one knew you gave the money back. She didn't give you problems privately. Why should you give her more consideration than she gave you? If she's embarrassed, too bad. She made you feel bad, and now she's the victim? No way. I'm glad she did it publicly. I fear that if she did it in private, future mother-in-law would have twisted things around. Next story. Am I the a-hole for kicking my mother-in-law out after she watched the kids? I will be quick here. Mother-in-law came to babysit our 3 kids on Friday, 12-year-old twin girls and 9-year-old boy. She arrived at 7 p.m., was supposed to be there at 6, and the kids go to bed at 8. She stayed until 2 a.m. I paid her $150. So for 90% of the time, the kids were in bed, sleeping. When I get home, I find my mother-in-law sleeping on the couch, as she usually does when she babysits, and she usually stays the night. But things were completely out of place. Like my room had been gone through, my computer personal files had been left open, definitely were not up when I left. Files that contain intimate photos of both me and my husband, mind you. My dog was fast asleep on my bed versus put in her kennel. Strict no dogs on the bed rule, which she is aware of. Her garbage all throughout the living room. Candy wrappers, snot rags. My bathroom completely rearranged and trashed, including all of our clean towels sitting in the bathtub. The only thing I really had a problem with was my computer. Everything else was the icing on the cake. Like, why are you going through my computer files? I have personal info in there, contracts with clients, and again, intimate photos of both me and my husband. And we have a strict no one allowed in our office rule because of this. So I woke her up and told her she had to leave. My husband was just dumbstruck, wondering what the heck happened to our house. So when I told him I was kicking her out, he just nodded because he was baffled that she went through my computer as well, and pretty embarrassed thinking his mom just saw those photos. So I kicked her out, and she is asking what she did wrong. And I asked her at this point what the heck she was doing in my office, rummaging through my computer files. She claims she was looking for solitaire, which she knows wouldn't be deep in 8 different files marked intimate and personal. So that was BS. She starts freaking out, saying she will just leave in the morning. And I say, no, now. She leaves. We wake up to several texts and nasty voicemails saying we are wrong, and that if I didn't want people going through my things, I should put a lock on it. I do have a lock on my computer, but it's her son's birthday, so not that hard to hack. Am I the a-hole? Completely and utterly not the a-hole. She's come into your house, wrecked the place, invaded your privacy and breached your trust. You have every right to kick her out. What's even worse is that you paid her to do this. She sounds like she has absolutely zero respect for you. Mother-in-law is super gross too. What kind of person looks at intimate photos of their son and his wife? I wonder if she was expecting to find someone that wasn't her son in the pictures? Not that I think Opie is cheating, but that's about the only thing I can think of that would prompt me to look through images like that. Not the a-hole, at all. If she has a smartphone, which I know not everyone has, but is a statistical assumption, she can have solitaire on her phone. So why was she on your computer? Also, you really need to put a better password on your laptop, especially if you have directories clearly labeled intimate. If she wants solitaire so badly, include a guest account that has the solitaire icon right in the middle of the desktop. What a bizarre situation. Does she have an issue with alcohol or pills? Or does she show any signs of dementia or Alzheimer's? This sounds like the actions of someone completely out of sorts. You have to pay your mother-in-law to babysit? Is this a normal thing? Anyway, not the a-hole. Sounds bonkers. My mother-in-law made me pay her to help with laundry when my kids were little, and I was also taking care of my severely disabled mother. Oh, and we'd have to throw her something for gas money like $50. Seriously, some people are something else. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying I told you so at my sister-in-law and brother's wedding? I, 27 female, have known sister-in-law for 3 years. She's the type of person that always needs to be right and needs to be in charge of everything. She's very demanding as well. My sister-in-law's family members are very disrespectful and rude. They don't clean up after themselves, expect everyone to act like maids or servants around them, and they think very highly of themselves. They can never be wrong and think they can do no wrong. Because of this, my sister-in-law's family don't really punish their kids, like they have no consequences. They aren't even like the gentle parenting type either. My sister-in-law's sister has a son, and he's extremely chaotic. He throws tantrum if he doesn't get something, and he has to be center of attention 24/7. When there are birthdays, he needs a gift or opens the gifts. He needs to blow out candles. It's frustrating, which is why I'm not usually around at family gatherings and other stuff. I was my sister-in-law's maid of honor since her friend canceled on her and I was helping make invitations. I saw one of the names for her sister-in-law's nephew. I asked if she wanted him to go, and she said yeah. She then asked why, so I told her why. I talked about his tantrums and how he'll probably throw a fit during the reception and other stuff. She got mad and said that I didn't know what I was talking about. Then she told my family and her sister, which caused her sister to write me a message saying how I was wrong and other stuff like that. Well, day of the wedding comes. Everyone comes in happy, except nephew. He's crying and is about to throw a fit. When my sister-in-law came out, he literally started screaming. The poor pastor had to stop and wait for the parents to leave. During the after party, he was back, and again crying. When they were cutting the cake, he screamed extremely loud. He pushed my sister-in-law who was holding a glass of wine and spilled on her. She started crying. She turned around to leave and I looked at her and said, "I told you so." She started crying even more now. When I got home, my mom called me extremely immature and wants me to apologize. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. That child sounds horrible. Unfortunately, so do you. My favorite part of the story was when she said that sister-in-law has to be right about everything. Meanwhile, I feel like given we're deciding that OP is the a-hole for disrupting wedding procedures because she didn't understand appropriate behavior for wedding functions, it might be a bit more appropriate to call it everyone sucks here, since that equally applies to the nephew's parents for bringing him to the reception in the middle of a meltdown and letting him run rampant. Opie for sure was kicking sister-in-law when she was already down, but I feel like the massively greater amount of chaos caused by the nephew makes it about even in terms of who was more of an a-hole here. You're the a-hole. This is absolutely a "you're not wrong, Walter, you're just an a-hole" situation. It doesn't matter that you were right. There was no need to be that person in the moment. Exactly. What did Opie hope to accomplish by telling someone who is already having a horrible time, "I told you so"? Did it bring Opie some additional sense of satisfaction or joy? Everyone sucks here. Bad moment to say something like that, but man, I wish I was there to see it. They got mad at you for trying to save the wedding from drama. Then you're proven right, and now it's suddenly not okay? Again, bad timing, but I love the pettiness. Last story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for not changing my dress that the bride picked out at my brother's wedding?" My 19 female brother and his now wife got married last month, and apparently I caused an issue so disastrous that is being talked about a month later. I am not super close with my brother's wife, Jess, but close enough that we talk sometimes. I hate wearing dresses due to personal issues, so Jess helped me pick one that was in my style and comfort. It was a dark green dress with black lace covering it and spaghetti straps. Jess said I could wear Doc Martens and keep my piercings in. I only have like 5. Looking at myself all dolled up was the first time in forever that I actually liked my appearance. Everything is fine until the reception. My brother comes up to me and tells me I need to change. I ask why, and he says Jess is upset that I've upstaged her. I was super confused. She picked the dress. I ask what the issue is. Well, apparently the dress is more fitted than Jess initially realized and was feeling insecure about her body. Here's where I might be the a-hole. I refused to get changed. I told my brother that he's marrying a model. Not that they can't have insecurities, but that I'm sure my 5'1", 180-pound self looks like a goblin next to her. He told me to get changed or leave. I ended up sitting outside the venue with all the stoners, so I had a fun time anyway. It's been a month and my brother still isn't over it. He called me selfish even though I left. I tried to apologize to Jess, but she told me to not worry about it. But her tone also seems like she's annoyed. The kicker is, Jess's aunt has been making comments about it online, which hasn't made things any easier. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She literally picked out the dress for you. Just because you looked better in it than she thought you would, doesn't give her the right to try and have you change. Exactly. And for brother to insist she changed the dress. And what should she change to? Wrap tablecloth around herself? I don't know for others, but when I went on my 3 siblings' wedding, I just had dress that was on me. Not a closet full extra dresses for case that bride might have bridezilla tantrum fit. Hope not the a-hole, and tell brother to get over himself. World does not go around him and his wife. It's been 1 month after the wedding, so he needs to put his big boy pants and grow up, instead of behaving like an insulted princess. I'm wondering why the bride would get so annoyed with a guest looking good. Any dress she chose. Did she want Opie to look wrong/bad and that's why she's angry? I'm also wondering if the bride meant for Opie to look frumpy and then got mad when the dress fits really well/her plan backfired. Not the a-hole. She picked it. In real life, you don't get to change your mind and make everyone change for you because your feelings are hurt. She didn't like that you looked too good at her wedding. That's horrible. Did she pick something that she thought would look bad or mediocre on you? I'm not sure. On the model, it looked a little baggy. But she was also a size 10, whereas I'm size 16/18. The dress fit perfectly, just hugged my curves a little more than was shown on the model. Jess is absolutely stunning. She's a freaking model. Not to say models can't have insecurities, but and I mean this in the nicest way, cannot find a legitimate reason as to why she'd be insecure because of me. It doesn't necessarily mean she thinks you look better than her. Sometimes people just need other people around them to look bad so that they can feel pretty. When you're shown in a dress, more so than you have probably shown in a while based on your own assessment of how you looked in it, it upset that balance for her. You're supposed to be the unattractive one, but when you showed up, you surprised everyone with how stunning you are, whereas she looked the same as always. Hi everyone, just a reminder. 1. Jess picked the dress for me to wear. I wore it. 2. She had my brother ask me to change her leave. I did not have a change of clothes, so I left. 3. You are complaining about me even though I did everything she asked. Seems like I'm not a problem here, but Jess. And you just might be. Copy and paste as needed. Am I the a-hole for naming my baby after my biological father? My 30 female mom and bio dad were addicted to drugs when she got pregnant. She got sober and my bio dad tried but struggled, but they decided before I was born that it would be best if he weren't around, at least until he cleaned up his act. When I was 6 months old, my mom met the man she'd later marry and would also adopt me. He's really the only father figure I've ever known. They never hid I was adopted, but my adoptive father has treated me the same as my younger siblings. When I was 13, I got into contact with my bio dad. He reached out as I had no way to contact him. He was finally sober. My parents allowed us to develop a relationship. We grew very close, and while I didn't call him dad, I love him very much. Sadly, a year later, he relapsed and overdosed. It devastated me, not just to lose him, but also what we could have had if he had remained sober. I eventually got into therapy to help with everything. Now, I'm married and expecting my first child. My parents have been amazing and supportive. My dad walked me down the aisle at my wedding, and they are so excited to be grandparents. My husband and I recently found out we're having a boy, and we've decided to name him after my biological father to honor his memory. He wasn't a bad guy, he was just mentally ill, had PTSD, and struggled a lot in life. He loved me enough to know I deserved better and let my dad adopt me. I had an amazing life because he was selfless and self-aware enough. So, I told my parents and they did not take it well. My dad was quiet and just obviously sad. My mom asked how I could name my child after the man who abandoned me. She said I don't have to name my child after my adoptive father, but she's going to struggle with calling her grandchild by the name of the man who couldn't clean up his act and then traumatized her daughter. I found him when he overdosed. She and my dad left shortly later. Now my mom isn't speaking to me, and my dad said it's ultimately my choice and I'll respect it, but it does hurt. This name does not work as a middle name, and my dad didn't have a middle name. I feel so conflicted. I don't want to dredge up bad memories for my mom or make my dad uncomfortable, but my bio dad means a great deal to me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. No a-holes here. You can name your child what you want, but your mom's not an a-hole for being upset by your choice. We should also consider the kid to be here. There are almost infinite names out there. I don't know why you'd name your kid something that will create distance between that kid and their grandparents, or why you'd saddle your child with a legacy of an addict who abandoned their kid and then died early. Meh, selfishness has its limits. You're the a-hole, OB. I feel so conflicted. I don't want to dredge up bad memories for my mom or make my dad uncomfortable, but my bio dad means a great deal to me. Am I the a-hole? Unless you're prepared to lose your relationship with your mom and your entire family who you claim to care about, you better rein in your impulsiveness and think about the bigger picture. If your bio dad was just your run-of-the-mill deadbeat, this could be excused, but he caused so much pain and left bad memories to the people around you that I struggle to see how you can think this would be a good idea. And you've only known this guy for a year. The version you saw was only a fraction of what he truly was as a person. I doubt the fantasy version of your bio dad you cooked up in your head even existed. Edit. My husband and I recently found out we're having a boy. We've decided to name him after my biological father to honor his memory. Are you sure it was a we decision? Or you could give your baby a totally different name, so he isn't burdened by your bio father's memory. I was looking for this comment. Many reasons that Opie wants to use this name, but one of them she seems to forget is this child will grow up eventually knowing it's named after a drug addict who abandoned his child. Talk about an issue that will need therapy when the kid is older. My cousin named his son after his brother who died of a heroin overdose. My cousin who died was named after our great-grandpa who died young and had a difficult life. Great-grandpa was apparently also named after a grandpa who died young. Needless to say, cousin's son doesn't understand why he was given the name to honor his uncle who died young of an overdose, when everyone with that name also died young, and he assumes he's going to die young too, because that's the legacy he was given. I get wanting to honor your bio dad, but maybe find another way. Next story. Am I the a-hole for allowing daughter to exclude family? My daughter's 5th birthday is coming up and we are having a party with family. My husband and I agreed to let my daughter choose who she wants to invite. She chose to invite everyone in my family and my husband's family, except for my husband's mom and stepfather. A bit of backstory is that my mother-in-law and father-in-law live out of state and have taken absolutely no interest in my daughter's life. They haven't even seen her in 3 years. During the past 3 years, my husband and I have tried to get them to FaceTime my daughter, but to no avail. My mother-in-law recently, as in the last few weeks, started calling her once a week or so, but it took so many attempts to even get to that point. My mother-in-law and father-in-law are both retired, so the lack of effort is certainly not due to a lack of time. They are also financially well off and have taken many trips in the last few years, just not to see us. Well, my mother-in-law and father-in-law invited themselves out here during the days of my daughter's birthday and birthday party, so when they found out my daughter doesn't want them here, they were very offended. My mother-in-law is complaining to the rest of my husband's family about how hurt she is. But I'm of the mindset that she has made no effort with my daughter, so why should my daughter have to include her in her birthday? But my husband is starting to feel guilty, and the rest of his family saying how hurt his mom is. So am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. Are you really blaming this on the whims of a 5-year-old? What if she randomly decided that she didn't want anyone from your side of the family there? Why would you even tell them they weren't wanted by your 5-year-old? Why create that tension when you claim that you want them to have a relationship? You want them to be salty at a 5-year-old? To me, it sounds retaliatory. You were all too happy to let them know they were being rejected because you felt rejected. Are we really all cuddling a grown adult who can't be bothered to develop a relationship with a grandchild and then wants a freaking pity party because they're not special enough to be thought of by said grandchild? LOL. I really love Reddit. This makes me think of all those parents who force their kids to hug/kiss family members, even when the kid says no. Trample all over those boundaries early, I guess. Info. I'm pretty suspicious here. Your daughter is 5. I'm skeptical you didn't lead her towards this decision in any way. Did she make a list of people she wanted to invite and didn't mention them? Did you ask and she said no? Yes, I'd also like to know what the daughter says is her reasoning for not inviting them. If a kid says they don't want to be around someone, that should be respected. Does she have other reasons for being uncomfortable besides never seeing this person before? She's 5. 5-year-olds don't need good reason to do something. I assure you, her grandparents have not been sneaking in from out of state to traumatize her behind her parents' backs for years. And no, a 5-year-old's desire to not do something shouldn't be unilaterally respected. There's a reason they're not allowed to make life decisions for themselves. Should a 5-year-old also be allowed to refuse to eat vegetables or take vitamins? What if they don't want a shot? Unlike everybody else, not a-hole. They haven't made any effort, and I believe that 5 is old enough to realize if someone doesn't pay any attention to you. All young children notice if someone ignores them. If she truly said she doesn't want them there, then that's fine. That's her choice, and as long as you didn't coach her, not a-hole. Even if not seeing her in person was due to the pandemic, wouldn't you do anything possible to see your grandchild, like for example, FaceTiming, which she has only started to do recently? Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving equal payment to my in-laws versus my parents? It should really state are we the a-holes because this absolutely was a decision my husband and I made together and both felt was fair and generous. I recently won a large sum of money. It's not life-changing, quit your job and never work again type of amount, but it's significantly more money than I've ever had in my account before. My husband and I talked at great lengths about sharing the money, what it would look like, and alternatives such as paying for a family vacation. And we decided to gift each household of our immediate family $20,000 each. So my mother-in-law/father-in-law received $20,000. Both of my sister-in-laws, one married and one single, my brother and his family, My mother and my father and stepmother all received equal amounts regardless of whether they were married or single. Kids or no kids. One of my sister-in-laws has mentioned that my mother-in-law is complaining that they should have received $40,000 to make it fair, since my parents are divorced and they each got $20,000. Since I only have one sibling, we thought it worked out nice and evenly since each side of the family is getting $60,000 total between each of the 3 households. My husband is embarrassed and annoyed that his mom isn't being more grateful. And while it wouldn't break us financially to give them the extra, it feels unfair to my parents to get less just because they aren't married anymore. Now for the comments. Is it too late to give her nothing? Not the whole. Tell her to want in one hand and crap in the other, and see which fails faster. Tell her she could keep what she got, or she could get it taken away and not have any. You are clearly not the a-holes. The entitlement of people is truly baffling. Sorry, are you one of my parents? Because that phrase wasn't exactly common in our household, but came up from time to time. You have one sibling to give $20,000 to. He has 2. As stated, each side of your family, yours and his, received $60,000. Not the a-hole. And your mother-in-law sounds ungrateful. Also, your sister-in-law should have never mentioned she'd said that. It was probably a private mother/daughter convo that wasn't meant to go any further. That's a good point. I never thought maybe it was a private venting that shouldn't have made its way to us. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law are notorious for sharing each other's venting to my husband, and then he starts bending over backwards to solve it. But nobody ever tells him anything directly. I always tell him unless the person has said something to him. His mom and sister are both grown women who can express their own feelings instead of having the other run interference. His life is much happier now that he doesn't jump as soon as one tells him the other's unhappy about something. Lol. They're lucky to get anything. I won the lottery, and each member of my family got a $50 Starbucks card. Haha, I'm starting to think that would have been a smarter idea. OP, you need to read a Reddit post about what to do when winning the lotto. It's such a good idea. I sold something I created for big money I was not expecting, and told no one. I followed the advice given on that post, and I'm happy to say I blew all the money on Coke and hoops, and no one asked me for a dime. I would not give them a penny moving forward and limit contact. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not giving back a bike my cousin gave me for free because he thought it was trash? About a month ago, I got a free bike off my cousin, an old red beach cruiser of unknown make. I needed a bike because my last one was stolen, and I'm too broke to buy a new one. My cousin then told me he had an old beat-up bike in his parents' backyard, and I could have it if I wanted it. When I picked it up, it looked a mess. Covered in mud, rusty chain, nicked paint, dry cracking on the white sidewalls of the tires. There was even moss on it, but I took it anyway and thanked them. I got it home, cleaned it up, touched up the paint with nail polish, lubed the chain with WD-40, put new $7 grips on it, tightened the rear gear, cleaned most of the rust off any chrome, put on an aluminum kickstand that a bike shop tossed out as garbage, and it became my daily rider. The tubes and tires are still good, and I got it back on the road for less than $10. And honestly, I like it. Ride's a little bouncy, but a coaster brake is fun and it's simple and reliable. The problem is my cousin saw me riding it last week, and at first didn't recognize it as the same bike. It was so covered in mud previously that he thought it was rusted over. And now he says that I scammed him and that he wants $60 for the bike, or give it back so he could sell it. I've refused and said he didn't want it in the first place, and I like riding it. Now he's calling me a jerk and telling his friends and family I've robbed him. The family are all on my side, including his parents, while his friends think I'm a jerk. But I'm the one who put the work into fixing his bike he gave me free as trash. And I'm the one who actually uses it, unlike my cousin. So I'm here of an unbiased opinion. Am I the a-hole for not giving the bike back or not giving money for it? Edit. Yes, I know WD-40 wasn't a permanent solution for the bike chain, and I will get a proper lube for it later. I only use it for the moment because I already had it on hand, and it loosens rust well, because it's made for that. I needed the chain working right away as I was already using the bike to go to work a day later. WD-40 is a stated penetrating lubricant, among other things. It's just not a steady lubricant because it dries out. The chain is working fine for the moment, and I'll get the right kind of grease/lube soon. Not the a-hole. If he wants the bike back, he should be willing to pay you money for the grips, WD-40, kickstand, and labor. I already had a WD-40, and the kickstand was free. The only things I had money into was the grips and dollar store nail polish. But it was still a day's labor to get it roadworthy again. Call a bike shop and ask what their hourly rate is for repairing a bike. Tell your cousin he can have the bike back, minus the cost of repair material plus the labor you spent on it. I guarantee that it will be more than $60, and probably more than he could sell the bike for. He doesn't get to profit off your labor for free. I know what the local bike shop's hourly rate is $25 an hour, plus the cost of the parts. Obviously not the a-hole. Your cousin is being ridiculous. He gave you a bike that apparently he thought was completely useless, and perhaps not even usable. And now that you fixed it up, he thinks you scammed him? What a joke! His friends are on his side because they are his friends, and because he likely didn't explain the situation fully or correctly to them. Don't worry about what they think. Exactly. The cousin is trying to scam and take advantage of OP. The cousin saw the bike as trash that got taken off of his hands. He didn't have to take the time or the energy required to discard it. Now that OP has taken the time to repair the bike and proven that it still works, the cousin wants to swindle OP to make a quick buck. And like you said, the scammer cousin probably only told his friends half of the story. What was your cousin expecting? That you were going to ride it still covered in moss and dirt? I was expecting the story to turn into the bike being a special edition that was worth a fortune. Wonder what your cousin has told his friends to make them on his side. As far as I can tell, the bike is nothing special, nor is it vintage. Maybe it is worth $60 in its current condition, because some people seem to want a fair amount for used beach cruiser. But it was basically worthless when I got it. Am I the a-hole for outing my brother to his in-laws and kids? My parents live with me because I bought their house when they were going to lose it. They were going to lose it because of all the money they spent keeping my brother out of jail and keeping him in rehab. My brother is clean and sober now, married, with kids, religious, with a father-in-law that gave him a great job. He has never paid my parents back 1 cent. I live in a basement suite with my girlfriend and my dog. I make good money, and my parents deserve to have a good life. They did what they thought was best. My brother had us all over to his house for a barbecue. It was a good meal, and his kids are all right for being his offspring. He then proceeded to mock me for still living at home, smoking weed and playing video games while living in sin. I told him to shut up and leave me out of whatever was going on. He said that he just knew I could be doing so much better if I applied myself and looked for guidance. I thanked him for the meal, and my girlfriend and I went to leave. He yelled that he was just telling me what I needed to hear to motivate me. I got upset, so I said I was motivated. I said that I liked to smoke and to drink, but that I paid for it myself with money I earned from a job. I never stole from our parents to pay for drugs. I said that I lived on the basement of a house I own because I couldn't afford 2 houses, one for me and one for our parents. And that since they went into that to pay for his lawyers and rehab, I was subsidizing his life. I said that my college fund went up to his nose. I may be bitter. We left. I guess his wife, who knew everything, had never told her parents. My parents understand why I blew my top, but they think I should have kept it in until it was only family there. Now for the top comments. I think it was nice of you to refresh your brother's memory, since he basically insisted on you doing so. His past would have stayed there if he hadn't decided to call you out for taking care of the mess he made. Seriously, what did he possibly expect to gain by needling you? Not the a-hole. And sometimes you do have to react in the moment. Between the anger and the resentment, you know if you don't react, the person will do it again. How sad OP's brother has to talk him down in order to make himself feel like a man. And what BS had he fed his in-laws feel a need to degrade his sibling like this? It is not like OP failed to try biting his tongue and leaving. He did try that. Bro persisted and demanded a response. Most of these situations absolutely need to be handled in a moment. If it's okay for OP's brother to berate him in public, it's perfectly fine for him to respond in kind. Shame on the parents for still taking the brother's side after everything OP has done for them. Your brother has rewritten history in his head so that he's the better child. It allows him to hold himself up higher than everyone else, ignoring everything that you and your parents did, especially everything that you gave up. Honestly, the fact that you did such an amazing thing for your parents after they essentially forfeited your future for him and his drug habit speaks volumes about you. Your parents need to understand that keeping things in is what brought stuff to here. To them, losing their home because they were so focused on fixing your brother and giving him every possible chance that they didn't care what happened, even though it doesn't seem to care how any of that impacted anyone else. Not the a-hole. No greater hypocrite than a reformed addict. Religious reformed addict. That's at least one level up. And then what happened? Not much. My brother is mad at me for talking about his past. My parents understand why I did what I did, but they said I should have walked away. I think I probably should have just left. No, you absolutely do not have to eat this nonsense. You deserve that little reality check. Not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother his girlfriend and daughter are unlucky to have him? I, 20 female, have a brother, Jake, 31. Jake has a girlfriend, Macy, 28 female, and they have an 8-month-old baby girl together. Since Macy gave birth, she's been living with mom and I. She has a lot of health issues that were amplified by pregnancy and labor, so we've been taking care of her. Jake still lives in their apartment on his own and comes over every so often. He is putting his all into work right now to progress his career. He is already doing quite well from what I can tell, and they are not financially struggling. He owns their apartment and can't afford to give them most things they desire, but he says he isn't where he wants to be with his career yet. Meanwhile, Macy is depressed and struggling physically too. She's on several medications and she barely leaves the house. My mom and I do 90% of the child care because Macy isn't in the state to be doing much, although she tries her best and feels very guilty for how much we've had to do to take care of my niece. My mom and I are happy to help, and Macy is kind of like a sister to me now. We're willing to do anything for her, but seeing her so lonely and unhappy is heartbreaking. My brother came over last night to see his daughter for literally 20 minutes, then he stood up to leave. I followed him out and asked where he always is, and why he isn't here with his wife who is clearly struggling and taking care of his daughter. He said he works hard and is too tired to come all the way over here after work every day, so he just comes when he can. Bear in mind, it's a 30-minute drive from their apartment to my mom's house. I said one day his daughter won't even recognize him, and neither will his wife because he doesn't make the effort to be here. He said it isn't my business, and if I'm unhappy helping them with a baby, then I should just stop, and that no one is forcing me. I said I'm not unhappy taking care of my niece, but it's heartbreaking seeing his girlfriend alone in that state, and him not being there for her or their daughter. I said he comes to see them probably once a week for 20 minutes, and it's not good enough, unless he's the freaking president of this nation and doesn't have any time at all. But he's not. He works a 9 to 5, so he's not like he's busier than the regular person. I said he should have been smarter and not have a child if he was going to put his career over his family, because now he isn't much of a father at all. He said he isn't taking advice on how to be a father from a kid who has no clue anything she's talking about, and that none of this is my business, so I should keep my 2 cents to myself from now on. I said I don't have to be older or a parent to know he's a useless father, and that his wife and daughter are extremely unlucky to have a loser like him. I walked into the house before he could respond. I know I was mean, but I don't really regret it, and I don't think it was unwarranted. But my mom said although I was right, I took it too far and may have pushed my brother away. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your brother is a deadbeat. Who wants to bet that bro will soon or already has a new girl to fool around with? I would bet my house that he has at least one side piece. Not the a-hole. He is quite literally being useless, for the most part, and they do sound unlucky to have him. They are living as if he's a nearly absent baby daddy paying child support. When I got near the end and read that he's only working 9 to 5, my jaw dropped. His girlfriend and your niece are lucky to have you and your mother. It's very thoughtful of you two to be helping so much. I'll be honest, a 30-minute drive twice a day can really put some wear and tear on a vehicle and cost a lot in gas, but to stay for only 20 minutes? And to only visit once a week? That's deadbeat behavior. He needed a reality check. He clearly doesn't want to be around any of you and wants to blame it on his piddly 9 to 5. I read us wondering why he doesn't stay the night once in a while or pick them up to stay at his apartment. His acting single is what he's doing. At first it was because he said he doesn't have the knowledge or the ability to take care of them both on his own. To be honest, we understood that. But we thought when Macy and the baby come to stay with us, he would be coming too, and we'd all do what we could. He stayed at their apartment and put all the work on us. while he lived like he is single and child-free. So as everyone does, you learn. There's only one way this will be fixed, and if you guys stop doing everything for him. But the other thing, is Macy getting some therapy or talk to a doctor? To help her? Yeah, she's getting physical therapy for one of the conditions, and she's on medication for the rest. She has appointments with the doctor every 2 weeks. She's getting better, but very slowly. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law that she can't speak for my brother's late wife? My brother met his late wife, Emmer, when they were both 12. I was 14. Emmer and I became really amazing friends, and she and my brother ended up dating by the time they were 14, and they were together until her death just after her 28th birthday. They had 2 boys together, who were 5 and 7 when Emmer died. 2 years after she died, my brother met his current wife, Laura. They dated for 2 years and got married 18 months ago. The boys are now 11 and 13, and they aren't really crazy about Laura. They are respectful, but she wants a more motherly relationship with them, and they are not interested in that with her. My brother was sort of upset about their lack of interest in a closer relationship with Laura, and we were talking about it recently. And I brought up our own complicated relationship with our dad and his second wife. The background there is my brother and I are both adoptees. Our mom was the woman who adopted us at our births with our dad. She died when we were 6 and 8. Our dad pushed for us to call his second wife Mom. His wife pushed for the same. The fact we were adopted was used as a reason why we should be able to accept his wife as our mom. Because we weren't biologically related to our mom, neither of us ever saw her as anything else. And Dad decided we should have no contact with each other if we didn't accept his wife and her kids as our mom and siblings. Emma knew how bad things were with our dad and his second wife, and she often heard my brother vent about how crappy Dad was for never understanding that him falling in love with someone else, enough for her to be his wife, didn't mean we would feel the same way about the same woman for her to be our new mom. When Emma knew she was dying, she warned my brother to remember if he found someone and their boys didn't want her to be more than his wife. She also wrote him a letter and touched on it there. He had me read a letter to him after Emma passed. Talking this all through with my brother helped him to realize he was doing what our dad had done. He said he somewhat understood Dad a little, and that the hope was there, but he never wanted to do to his boys what Dad did to us. He and Laura spoke. Then a couple of days ago, my brother and Laura were at my house and she was trying to tell him that Emma would have wanted the boys to have a second mom, and it's what all parents want. They would want someone doing that for their kids. My brother told her he knew that wasn't true. She asked if he really believed that, and said he might have picked it up wrong. I told her she couldn't speak for Emma. I reminded her that I was present when Emma said it, and I read a letter to my brother. She told me I should be backing her up, and if I love Emma so much, I would agree that she would want that. My brother told her I knew Emma. She said that didn't mean I had to accuse her so harshly. She told me I wasn't helping anyone by interfering. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. She can be acting like a mother to those boys without forcing them to call her such. There is a huge difference in that. It sounds almost as if she is working on the premise, if they start calling me mom, they will start believing I am one. Instead of, if I act like they are my kids, they might start seeing me as their parent. Also not to forget, even with biological parents, 11 to 13 is the start of teenage years, and it isn't specifically good period during which kids feel very fond of their parents. It is more strenuous and rebellious time even when you are blood related. I think it's even less about them calling her mom specifically. Laura's bothered by the fact they're polite to her but don't need her for anything or ask her for something when they could. They go to my brother mostly, or sometimes me or their other family. They have grandparents and uncles from Emma's side. She feels like they are not giving her the chance to be much of anything to them, which is possibly very true, but they might never want that. She's not being someone they'd want to go to. Not the a-hole. Why is everyone pushing these kids to feel something they don't? It's awful. Forget your mom. You have a new one. They don't need that. They need love that doesn't need a definition that's only designed to make the adults feel better. Kids first. They just need love without all of this pressure. A lot of people fail to realize that things don't always slot together into a neat little puzzle. They can, and it happens, but not always. Sometimes you just have to make the best out of the pieces you have. When a piece or multiple pieces are missing, the puzzle changes. That's how I see it. The boys might never want new pieces to come in where their mom was. Maybe with time they will feel more strongly about Laura being something more to them, but maybe she's always going to be my brother's wife in their eyes. It really doesn't help anyone to push it. My brother and I are living proof of that.
Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my purse to a child? I went with my now ex-fiancé Mike to a third birthday party for his niece Sissy. I had a Coach Disney bag my mom gave me for my birthday. His family thinks I'm spoiled because my parents still gift me clothes and makeup. I constantly go out shopping with my 4 sisters and sister-in-law. My mom and dad normally pick up the bill and never expects anything. His family makes constant comments, especially his sister April. So Sissy saw my bag and wanted it for her birthday. I tried to explain it was my birthday gift from my mom. Later on, Sissy didn't like the princess Legos set I got her, and April got mad, saying I have money. It's not true. My parents gift me stuff, and I work in an entry-level job. Funds are tight for me, and my student loan payments are starting up again, so I really don't have extra income. April and then their mom started in on me like I should give Sissy the bag. I was so upset. I took off my engagement ring and handed it to Sissy, saying, "This is the only gift your family will ever receive from me again." I got an Uber and I left. Told my dad what happened while crying, and he picked me up at my apartment. Then told my ex I'm moving out over text. I guess his sister got his phone and texted me all sorts of things about how I can't afford to break the lease, and I told her my dad is going to pay for it if I move back in with him and mom. So now he's getting a half of the apartment and your daughter gets a shiny ring, and she should be thanking me. After that, my dad got movers, and because my parents got me most of the furniture, it's coming with me. My ex thinks I'm being childish and petty for taking what his family did on him. I told him he should have spoken up and stopped his sister and mom from demanding my purse. It's not like this is the first time his family acted like that, but it's the last time. Not the a-hole. Sissy is 3 and may have trouble understanding things, but it is her mom's job to make that explanation in an age-appropriate manner. You probably should have put her purse in your vehicle, where Sissy would have promptly forgot about it. Clearly, April hasn't prized Legos lately. April and her mom were so out of line. One wonders whether they were raised in a backwoods shack, far from normal human social conventions. Your then fiancé should have put an immediate stop to it. If he wasn't going to then, you can be sure he wasn't likely to in the future. Handing your ring to Sissy was a boss move though. I wonder if she'll pitch a fit if it tries to take it back from Sissy. Will April demand that Sissy be allowed to keep the ring? Not the a-hole. So she thinks because her parents have money and like to spend that hard-earned cash on their kids, that it means her kid should be able to demand whatever she wants? And she thinks that makes you the spoilt one? Lol, her kid's an entitled little brat, and she's the same. They had no right to do that. And the fact that your boyfriend stood there and did nothing and then put it on you? Nope, you were right to walk away. With family like that, he'll be lucky if any woman is stupid enough to put up with them. I'll predict he'll be single for a very long time. The kid will become an entitled brat. She's a toddler, and she didn't understand the situation. She just wanted a pretty thing. It's the parent's responsibility to explain to a toddler why that's not okay. The toddler is not being an a-hole. She's just being a toddler.